Queensland producers say they're disappointed at the state government's decision to postpone a compulsory inclusion of ethanol in petrol. The government was set to introduce a 5% ethanol mandate at the end of the year, but it's been put on hold. It's a win for the RACQ, which had been lobbying for the delay. But there are concerns the move will make the state's cane and grain industries less sustainable. Maria Hatzakis reports.
For some, it's the fuel of the future, and an ethanol industry is expected to bring a welcome boost to the bottom line of many sugar and grain growers too.
And you get paid a lot more money if you produce your cane for ethanol than if you produce your cane for sugar.
It's important that the industry is actually given every chance to compete.
The government has a plan to do that by making the inclusion of ethanol in petrol compulsory. A 5% mandate was due to start at the end of this year, but a decision to delay the initiative for at least 12 months has created concern.
The biggest employer in this state is not coal mining, it is sugar. It is still sugar. There are 55,000 people employed in the sugar industry, and we are closing it down. Every 10 years, 6 sugar mills close, and in the next 10 years there is no doubt that another 6 will close. We've only got 20 left.
The government says changes to the federal fuel excise have created uncertainty about the financial benefit of a state-based plan, and that interest groups are still divided on the mandate. It says the delay will allow the government to carefully consider those uncertainties. But federal independent MP Bob Katter says the move creates uncertainty.
I'm worried about the mill workers. I mean, quite frankly, I'm worried about cane farmers, I can tell you. But, there's 3 mill workers and harvester contractors for every cane farmer we've got. I mean, yes, the cane farmers will go down, but at least they've got a farm to sell at the end of the day. The poor old mill worker's got nothing. What does a mill worker living in Tully, what does he do? He's got a house. What use is a house if the mill closes in Tully?
Environmentalists are also disappointed.
The overarching framework for not just environmental policy but for economic policy as well has to be sustainability. That's the moral imperative of our time. And if they're not going to use that as an overarching framework for economic policy, then we're not going to develop in sustainable directions.
The decision is a setback for grain producers.
Well, over the last 10 years or so, we've had periods of extremely low grain prices. They've been interspersed sometimes with high spikes in prices, but generally the prices have been lower than we would like to see. And we just like to see a good, reliable buyer of our grain in the market, so it's always there.
Grower Wayne Newton says an ethanol mandate would help increase demand and stabilise grain prices.
It is important to us as grain producers to have that sort of reliable 24/7 market there for our grain. It just helps to put a floor in our market. They use about 200,000 tonnes a year, which out of 1 to 2.5 million tonne crop isn't a really significant amount, but it just helps put a floor in the base, sort of sets a base price for our grain.
Wayne Newton supplies sorghum to the Dalby biorefinery on Queensland's Western Downs. Its operators say even without a mandate, demand for ethanol is strong. It's estimated ethanol already makes up around 2.5% of Queensland's total fuel supply.
Most certainly we're selling everything we produce, and we expect that to continue. And if that's an indication, most certainly there's going to be moderate growth to continue.
But the plant has gone into voluntary administration. Its CEO says if the state government is going to put an ethanol mandate in place, it should invest more in plant construction.
The problem is with construction capacity, production capacity I should say, and so we'd like to see assistance on that side, the investment in additional production capacity. Most certainly one has to think about that when you drive a mandate. So that seems to make sense and would be in keeping with what's been done in other parts of the world.
But there is support for the delay. The state's peak motoring group says it gives consumers greater choice.
RACQ supports biofuels and we support more research and development of them. But with so many cars currently not suitable for E10, it's important that we don't lose access to the current fuels that we have. And removing regular unleaded means that those motorists who can't use E10 have to upgrade to premium fuels, and that's going to cost them 10 to 15 cents per litre more, so we don't want to see that.
And the RACQ says about 25% of cars can't run on ethanol, and the delay gives more time for ethanol-compatible cars to be rolled out.
Well, the extra 12 months means another year of some of the older vehicles being removed from the fleet and new cars coming in. Basically all cars now that are suitable for regular unleaded can also use E10, so it would reduce the problem from 25% down to about 20% of the fleet.
Well, 12 months will allow for some concerns to be resolved. Wayne Newton says producers will continue lobbying for change.
AgForce will certainly be talking to the state government in the next short period of time, actually, to see if we can actually get that mandate introduced in 12 months' time.